Let's cut across and listen into what she has to say.
Deep thought, with gravitas, with clarity, with transparency, and with vision. All of us in India are blessed to have her as the Finance Minister. Thank you, Madam, for being with us. Thank you for inspiring us. Thank you for guiding us. The first budget for Prime Minister Modi and the Honorable Finance Minister in the third term, and your seventh, is full of encouragement for us in industry. Full of encouragement to create employment, to do investment. Your thrust on agriculture, your thrust on infrastructure, your thrust on MSMEs, your focus on the development of Eastern India, your focus on simplification of tax laws, your attention to reduction of stamp duties in states where they are high, your plans for solar rooftop, pumped storage, the comprehensive economic policy reform. I can go on and on. There are many points, and fortunately for us, even though we want to say ye dil mange more, there is not more that we can ask for. So many good features, decriminalization, etc., etc. And I mean, if I actually prepared a list, I could go on and on and on. To sum up, the first budget of this government, the third term of Prime Minister Modi, builds on his commitment to growth, inclusion, and next generation reforms. It also sets the tone and the blueprint to realize the objective of Viksit Bharat in 2047. Clearly, achhe din for the nation, achhe din for the economy. Once again, thank you, Madam Finance Minister, and over to you.
Thank you very much. This is the first time I think I'm attending this open house, a small, intimate gathering. And at a time when there's just a lot of discourse on the budget, most of which are really getting into the details of what has been said and what has not been mentioned in the speech, but what has been covered otherwise in the budget, going through the details. But to have this one, I think I would say it's not yet another discussion session, because I find the audience a very discerning gathering, and I therefore would place a lot more importance for the exchange of ideas, thoughts, and as much as possible from my side, I'll try to put forward things or issues which will be in the nature of clarifying things. But as an opening statement, I want to highlight the fact that this budget is, first of all, futuristic. If actually many things which have been said in the speech, but even more things which have not been said in the speech but are there in the document, what had been mentioned by the Prime Minister, that we are looking at a futuristic India and the necessary action that is required at this stage for building that futuristic India, that is towards 2047. So, first of all, the initial markers were all laid out even in the vote on account. So for those who want to have a lot of spice in the discussion, who think, oh, this has been done for the two alliance partners, let them please themselves. I have no problem with that. But it is a matter of fact that even during the vote on account, a good indication was given what is on store in store for the July budget. After all, the vote on account was, and I was also commented upon for it, the vote on account was strictly for running the business of the government. We had just indicated one program which was of importance, and that was the PM Suryodaya. Other than that, it had nothing. It was purely the grammar book vote on account. But we indicated that in the July budget, there will be a clear, wider picture of what is in store for the rest of the year and also for the next 5 years. And that is exactly what we've done now. Drawing from the vote on account, subsuming everything that has been said in it, and here bringing in a lot more clarity about what is the Amritakal first budget and third term first budget. A third term which is historic because a Prime Minister continuing in his role for the third term, having done 10 years of good work, reforms, and emphasized on continuity, stability in government. So when we come back, it is certainly a big message for which we thank the people of India, recognizing that this government should continue to be there is the votes or the mandate. Now, therefore, even in the Rashtrapati's Bhashan and subsequently at the beginning of the session, PM himself has very clearly said this will have a lot of roadmap related details. Now, if you ask me to tell what is that vision, what is that futuristic, clearly the steps towards getting India have a lead advantage in research, R&D for private sector, space sector, money has been given and a plan has been drawn where it is not just going to be government, it will also be bringing in small and big players to come into this area and for which government will support and initial allocations have been made. Equally, placing emphasis on Industry 4.0, readiness of our youth for it. If not, how are we going to bring that kind of a dimension in skilling them, not just skilling them in the old traditional, old India's requirements, but the new industry's requirement for skilling. And therefore, the skilling that we've been talking about in the 5-item package for youth is the skilling for readying youth for skills which are required by the industry. So it's not come, do just your foundry work and then go back. It is going to be AI driven, but equally labor intensive units which also have to modernize, but yet India's typical solution for a blend of technology and use of manpower. So training for those and bringing a lot of advantage of research and technology into agriculture, factor productivity and factor related reforms, which despite all that, I'll have introductions telling me about my budgets earlier. We did not touch on factor reforms, although we've been talking about it, but now we've specifically said what are the few for land related matters, what are the few for capital related matters. So factor reforms have really taken a big place in this budget. And in that, of course, a lot of work has to be done together with the states. We've even indicated as to how we are possibly engaging with the states to seek them to be on board on these kind of reform steps. It's not going to be easy. We'll have to work with the states, keep persisting with certain objectives which are for the nation's good. And there are no center and state politics in this. So when I say futuristic, there are such things which we can take on board and understand that we are just not using the word without having done the work there. And in this repeatedly, industry together with the government, state governments together with the industry and with the central government, is the repeated message that it is not a central government's only action plan, it is involving everybody. Other than that, of course, we are looking at data and data-related urgency, with a sense of urgency, data-related work that we have to do, and the benefits of use of data are also being highlighted in this budget. Of course, we are still continuing with the emphasis on infrastructure, public expenditure to build public utilities and also greater connectivity and so on. So when people repeatedly ask me about, but what about rural distress? What about rural consumption demand? What about small savings? I think we repeatedly have explained that if government puts a rupee somewhere, the multiplier effect is what is going to have a spin-off in every one of these areas. So there's no way in which I change the course and say, all right, all these, while when we're coming out of COVID, we placed emphasis on capex and public expenditure. Now we are changing tack because everybody is worried about, all of us want to have development reaching every corner of the country, for which I need to take connectivity, not just road, but also digital connectivity to every corner of the country, so that even before people understand that they have to come to the city for something, they know what it takes to do business with different parts of the country, inclusive of their own state capitals and so on. So there has been a comprehensive look at the kind of things that we can start off with, and that is where this budget, although it pertains to the rest of the 8 months, it indicates the direction of the next 5 years and then go further. One thing which, because all of you all are in industry, most of the audience here understand the emphasis that we'll have to lay on fiscal prudence, transparency in governance. We have very clearly indicated, and our fiscal deficit number could have been retained at 5.1. You wouldn't have been unhappy. But I'm sure when we showed that we are conscious, every moment conscious, that one, we need to have the bang for every buck that we spend, but equally we also have to handle the macroeconomic issues with a greater sense of responsibility. And the word given, which is what I said one of the media houses yesterday, the word given post-COVID and the trajectory given for fiscal deficit, fiscal management totally, the glide path has been honored in each one of the budget afterwards. We have not sort of found the easiest excuse to say, no, I need to spend here, so please forget it. We have kept the glide path. And have also probably untypically given a line and assurance saying next year we'll still reach the number that we had given ourselves even earlier. So a forward signaling also has been given for those who are looking for it. And further, I was astonished to find in some newspapers today, no, there should be greater clarity on how this debt management is going to work in place of fiscal deficit. The matter is still in the parliament. Just wait. We'll talk more about it. We've already given you an indication after 26 what would be the question. We've given you an indication after 26 what. Emphasis, as was given in, let us say, the N.K. Singh committee report, emphasis on debt reduction. Because I find also many countries abroad and states within India, not to blame anybody, if your debt management is handled with a larger purpose, and you're not just borrowing to repay your debt or pay the interest, or flash it away in revenue expenditure related items, and your quality of expenditure is also not assessed, then no good being fixated on that number, oh, I need to reach this number of fiscal deficit. And that is where we've indicated, post the glide path fully having been serviced, post that what, we've given you an indication. We need greater clarity. As we go along, we'll do that. So that's the long and short of it. There's, of course, always the tax-related interesting debates which go on. We'll participate in that because nothing done in the finance ministry At least I can tell you under Prime Minister Modi, nothing done is done just with the back of the envelope calculations. We go through rigorously. We talk with people who are concerned in these areas. And only then, not for revenue considerations, I underline that. More for ease of doing business, more for simplification, more for rationalization. Have we brought changes in the tax? It's not been increased because I want more money. And it's not been increased for everything. Every asset class has to be treated similarly and nothing more. So I'm sure that gives you a picture of what I want to say in the opening remarks, but I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Madam. As usual, clear, forthright, and forward-looking. Thank you so much. If I may, I'd like to ask one question which does not directly pertain to the budget, but pertains to policy making. The government had set up independent regulators with the idea of them being genuinely independent of the politics behind the state government administrations. But sadly, over the last few years, the power or the effective appointment of these regulators is done by the state governments or those in power at the state governments, thereby giving the authority in a way to the state governments to effectively control the decisions of these so-called independent commissions. And this is actually once again getting the politics into the economics of the decision making. It impacts the sentiment certainly behind certain parts of investment, for example, say in the power sector. Even though lots has been done and fantastic work, but the independence of regulators is certainly not complete. And therefore, it's not really a question, but it's a request that at the policy level, could the independence of the regulators be restored? I will open up this question and answer to the floor. I'm going to ask a very young member of the audience to start. Shashwat.
Honourable Minister, very good morning. Tuesday's budget is a budget that will enhance India's transformation. It's progressive, it's inclusive, and it's balanced. Truly a budget that sets the key pillars for us to become a Viksit Bharat, a futuristic India. Honourable Minister, in the budget you mentioned that nuclear energy is expected to form a significant part of the energy mix for a Viksit Bharat. So my question is, how do you foresee the private sector participating, and what would be the mechanics of the private sector participation? This is something that we're very excited and enthused about, and I'd love to learn more. Thank you.
I'm happy to say that the mention of nuclear energy is after having heard from our own scientists in the government that modular units setting up and the formulation for operation and running it are completely indigenized, and Indian technology, Indian way of doing it is already and available. And it is only with that confidence given by our own scientists we thought we should push ahead with this, because for a growing India and at the speed with which we are growing and we aspire to keep that momentum, the energy mix has to be diversified. And that is the reason why, despite our clamor to do things to meet and keep up every commitment given in Paris or in Edinburgh, we are going in that route. But beyond that, also, there's so much to do, and that is where the nuclear energy subject comes to play. And with this mention, we expect the private sector also to engage with the government, with the atomic energy, with Baba Atomic Park, and get an understanding of it. We would actively encourage private sector participation.
Thank you so much.
I will shift to one of the largest players in the renewable energy sector, wind energy, Devansh Jain.
Good morning, madam. I had the good fortune of actually being in Parliament when the budget was in progress. We came with YPO. So while it was a very, very futuristic and forward-looking budget, it was also entertaining to see some of the opposition members doing what they were doing. Having said that, madam, my question was more around the fact that there's so much mention of energy transition in the budget and such a massive focus on renewable energy by Modi ji. But the GST on wind and solar is at 12%, and majority of the inputs are at 18%, leading to a lot of accumulation, and the cost of power is actually going up because of that. So it was a request and a suggestion if we could correct the inverted duty structure, that would reduce the cost of power.
I think I mentioned it in the budget also. The GST rationalization attempt is not just to rationalize the rates, but also to simplify the processes and correct every inversion.
That'll do it. Thank you, ma'am.
I'm going to shift my attention to a woman who showed us how to transform healthcare, Preetha Reddy.
Namaste, and congratulations on an amazing budget, madam. It was both politically and economically right and futuristic, so thank you for that. I really appreciate the fact that you focus so much on employment for youth and the youth of India, because they really are the future, and if we don't give them active employment and things to do, there may be dire consequences. And I really am grateful to you for doing that. It is truly futuristic. From the sector, I think we've come a long way. And with every budget, you've given a little bit to healthcare. So we're grateful to that. But I would, again, when you get a chance, you want to ask. So what I'm saying is that you've done for the cancer drugs, you've done zero import for some of the cancer drugs, which is phenomenal. But the radiation equipment, India should become Atmanirbhar. We should manufacture this equipment, but we're, a long way from that. But that is a huge drain on people, just the cost of the equipment and the duty on it. So my request is that since you've been really generous and given it for the drugs, could you please consider the radiation equipment? And I think more on the skilling, especially for the services, because there was a lot of talk on AI replacing people's skills and people being jobless. But I'd like to assure you that as far as healthcare is concerned, we really need more people in the sector, because it is the hands, it is the feet on the ground which we need. So if we could focus on that. You've given a lot. I think we have to pick it up and run with it. So thank you, and a little bit more for the radiation.
I want to request another woman who's transforming media, Shireen.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you so much for your initial comments. If I could just pick up on the comment that you made that the tax-related changes were not done on back of the envelope calculations, ma'am. And on the issue of indexation, which has been brought to the attention of the Finance Ministry, is there any consideration at all at this point in time to look at a possible review as far as indexation is concerned, or to consider grandfathering, which has been the request that's come in from several constituencies at this point in time? That's my first question. And the second question, ma'am, on capex, as you mentioned, at 3.4% of GDP, it has, of course, been seeing a historical run in the last few years. Would you say that at this point in time, given where you find yourselves, as well as the objective of being able to get to that fiscal consolidation roadmap, that this is the best, perhaps, that the government can do, and it is now time for the private sector to pick up the pace on capex as well? Thank you very much.
That almost sounds that I should stop the capex. I think we'll continue with the capex, because there's no way in which you can be sure that the recovery and the growth is complete and it will sustain for itself. We'd like to be sure that the public spending actually does the job of bringing public infrastructure and bettering it as well. So it is not a temporary solution that we thought is required post-COVID. India still has infrastructure deficit in some parts of the country. When I say that, it's not just roads. Look at the pace in which we are building ports. We are also trying to modernize our ports. Look at the way in which what started off as an UDAN experiment for interlinking airports, restoring some of just the airstrips and not airports, and so on, today has got so much traction. The growth of India's aviation sector has been enabled by this UDAN scheme, if I can say that. And therefore, connectivity is not just building roads. You also have the optical revolution that India has seen, optical fiber revolution, as a result of which internet is reaching the remotest corners before even, dare say, roads have reached. And as a result, today you see that the purchasing power of people in farthest corners are not waiting for the government schemes, but with the internet connectivity, they are able to access, and also investment in open network for digital commerce and so on. So infrastructure still has a lot of work to do. So I wouldn't be in a hurry to say, can I shut that shop? No. So, of course, that doesn't mean we'll keep doing it and we'll not have a view on private sector investment. We will want that to be ramped up, there's no doubt. India needs all that momentum. So, and I'm sure the industry has at least given me the feeling that in the last two budgets, whenever I interact with them, they are aware of their role, not just for building nation building, but their own businesses have the brightest opportunity now within India, produce here and also export. So industry, I'm sure, is conscious, and they would still be engaging, and I'm probably not measuring the investments that they've made in the last few years. On the taxation issue, I want to be clear that I'll hear all these comments, but that finance bill, which was presented on 23rd, is the property of the Parliament now. I have no business to comment on it outside to say, no, I presented that, but now because I've had a couple of suggestions coming, I'm going to do this. No way. It has to be a discussion in the House, or any comment made newly from what has not been said there will have to be said back again in the House. I can't comment about it outside.